And welcome back to redheart.com as well as the Crochet Crowd. I'm your host Mikey, and in today's tutorial this is part 2 of the Granny Noel Afghan. Really a fabulous idea. In part 1 we did the first square, so there's this here, so you have 13 of these, and then in this one here you have these squares here, and you need 48 of these smaller ones that you see, and they're joined together to form one big square, so when they come in together on the Afghan, so it looks really quite amazing. If you look at the assembly diagram that's provided by redheart.com, this is a free pattern. The link is in the more information of this video. You can see that you have the big square, and then these are the 4 coming together and so on. So you can see how the pattern is going together on that. Very easy, and what you're looking at here is actually a finished square, and this is how you have to finish it in order to be able to join it. So on these little squares you have to have the final edge done in order to do it. In the last one here I had you finish off just like so, because we are going to be using this final revolution to bring everything together so it locks all together into position. So what you have here is that all the middle squares, or all the squares here, are identical. The only difference is that there's a color change. So I'm going to show you just how to do one, and then what we're going to do is that I'm going to show you how to start assembling these together so that it's a block ready for you. So here we have the pattern by Redheart, and what we have here is a link in the more information of this video if you need it. So we have with B, A, C, and B. These are the color combinations that you see. There are 4 different color combinations within this square, just like you have here, and that's as per the pattern. So you can essentially see you have white, green, white, and white is always the finishing off before the final green, and the final green is done afterward when we're doing all the joining together, so we don't worry about that. So we have red, green, and white. We have white, green, white, red, and white. I do know my colors. And green, red, and white. So you can see that you have these, and you will see that it's kind of opposite to each other. So the center of the whites are opposite to each other, and then the colors of the red and green are opposite this way. And again, that's something that you can determine for yourself if you want to change that at any point. So let's begin. It's very simple. These squares are really quick to do. Okay, to start off with, we're just doing a slip knot, and that starts us, and I just happen to be using green at this point, still using a 5mm or size H crochet hook. We're going to chain 4, so 1, 2, 3, and 4, coming into the beginning stitch to form a ring. So grabbing the yarn, pulling it through and through, and you will have the center ring just like you see, and then I put the straggler around the outside in order to lock it into position. So that was very easy. So let's move on to round number 1. We're going to chain 3, which counts as a double crochet here and throughout. Work 2 double crochets, chain 3, 3 double crochets into the ring, chain 3, and etc. So very easy. So watch. So we're going to chain 3, and we're going to do 2 more double crochets at this point around the center of the ring. So the starting off on how we're doing this is slightly different from what we've done in the past in the big one. So when we're turning a corner in this particular revolution, it says to chain 3. So 1, 2, and 3. Come back to the center of the ring, 3 more double crochets. And you see how I have the tail locked into position around the outside, so it's getting stuck underneath. It's a way of hiding in your loose ends without anybody knowing that you had those. So we're going another corner, 1, 2, and 3, back to the center for 3 more double crochet. So this is a typical way of starting a granny square Afghan if you're ever questioning that. And now we chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and we can see, so you got 1 side, 2 side, 3 side, so you can really never go wrong on figuring out your 4 sides. So we finish off with these our 3 double crochets. So we have to finalize this final corner, so chain 3 and slip stitch to the top of the beginning chain 3, like so. And that's how we have so far. So at this particular point we are going to fasten off, and I'm going to show how to fasten off. I'm only going to show it this one time for this particular video, and I'm just going to pull up on the string like that, and I pull it snug, and I just kind of wrap it around the corner, and I just want to come into the side underneath the stitch and pull it through and go and work my way sideways. So go to the next stitch on this side, and I'm kind of weaving it in and out, and I do that in order to lock it into position. So the next round is going to wrap around that very easily, just like so, and then I just come back and I can just trim my center at this point. And I don't want to trim this one yet. I want to get my next revolution in before I do that, because then I know it's completely locked in before moving along. So let's go on. We are going to move on to the color red next. So I want to bring this to your attention at this particular point. Do you see how it looks like that this square is kind of weird? You see that the red is kind of bunched up on the edges like that? That's because in the next round, which is white, after this one that I'm about to show you, is that the red actually is going to look like this. So you see how it looks square, but in the rounded the white, what happens is that we do a certain stitch to it, and then it makes it look like the red has been rotated slightly, just like you see. So that's just a trick in order to do that, in order to make it happen. So we're going to start off, and we're just going to grab our red, and we're going to go into a chain space, just like you see. Okay, and so we're going to now chain up 3. So 1, 2, and 3, coming into the same spot, and we are going to put 2 double crochets in, sorry. And so when we're turning the corner on this, we're only chaining 2. So in the last one we were chaining 3, this one's only 2. And then just like we did on the large square, is that we do a chain 1 in between, and then we do the next corner. So it's a 3 2 3 configuration, and if you're just joining me for the first time, I call that 3 double crochets, 2 chain, 3 double crochet. That is my own lingo. That's not standard within crochet, but it helps me remember in order to do my steps. So every corner is going to get the 3 2 3, and when you're done a corner, you simply just chain 1 and then move to the next corner. Let's do our final corner. This is the green that I had, and I just want to kind of trap it under the corner, and it's the 3 2 3. Okay, and chain 2. Just want to get that straggler under control. Just don't want it to appear anywhere where it makes the colors look like they're bleeding. And then we're just going to finalize the final edge off, so chain 1 and then slip stitch it to the top of the chain 3 that you started off with, and so that would be your red done. So in the next one we're going to do level white, and this will be the final of doing this particular square, and then you will need to do 48 of those and then come back and start joining them together. So here's what we have at this point. You can see that the square looks like it's turned sideways at this point, and that's because the white that we're about to do is about to turn the square so that it looks like this. So it's very unusual. I've never been able to do that in crochet before. Well, I've never seen that done before. So it's actually kind of a neat to learn something new. So let's begin. We're just going to grab our white and just come into a corner space like so. So just going around, let's drop our straggler in, just like see. And then I just want to chain 1, and then I want to single crochet into the same spot, and I want to make sure I go around that straggler so it traps it into position, and then I'm just going to let the straggler fall down in behind. So now let's just chain 1, and into the gapping space in between the corners is where we're going to put the new corner. So it's going to be the 3 2 3 right into that particular space. So it's 3 double crochet, chain 2, and 3 double crochet. And you can see that just after one particular item like this, you'll see that a new corner is starting to form. And then after you've done that is that you chain 1 and then single crochet into this gap space, which would be the old corner. Chain 1, and now we come in between the old corners and do another 3 2 3. So I've never seen that done before. I think it's kind of neat how you can just turn like that. I don't think you can do it for very much bigger sizes other than this. So it's a 3 2 3 going into this space. And then chain 1, single crochet into the old corner, chain 1, 3 2 3 into the next, and then chain 2, so 3, 2, 3 into that space. Oops. Okay, chain 1, single crochet into that old corner, just like you see, and then chain 1, and then 3, 2, 3 into the end. Chain 2. So when I said the 3, 2, 3, that includes that chaining 2, by the way, just in case you're following me that closely, or following every word that I'm saying. And then finally we've got that last corner in, so chain 1 and then slip stitch it to the beginning of the single crochet that you started off with, and now we can fasten off. So you can see that we've taken the old red corners and now we've just done this one here, and it looks like that it's been turned sideways. So that's kind of neat. So I need you to fasten off at this particular point, and I need you to do 48 of these smaller squares using the different color combinations. You can have other different color combinations, but I'd strongly recommend that this outside white, whatever color you're going to use, is always the same on the outside of every one of your squares in order to make it. So if it's going to be blue, make sure every square is finalizing off with blue, and etc. So hopefully you get that. So in the next part of the tutorial I'm going to show you how to start joining them. So you're going to have at least 4 of these done in order to make one particular square, and that's, remember, you need 48 squares altogether, so every group of 4 is going to come together in order to form what you have, just like this. To help you further, I would recommend that you do an assembly line for yourself. For example, it says make 12 of each color combination. So for example, you'll have 12 of these color combinations so that the green is the center. So then the next one will be red is the center, and then there's 2 squares where white is the center. So what I'd recommend you do is do all the centers first. So for example, you'll need 12 of these red, you'll need 24 of these white, and then 12 of the green. And then what I would do is then pick up the red again, and you know that green is the next color for that, so do all of them in the next round. So do every one of the squares in the next round, just like so. And the reason why you're speeding up is that you don't have to remember too much. It's very easy just to kind of look at the pattern once and create what you need, and then just bam it through the rest of the squares at the same time. So then once you've done all of that, is then you come back and do the final revolution in white. So this requires less yarn manipulation. You don't have to move around the balls as much. You just cut and trim, and you'll be able to fire these off really quickly, and that's a very easy way to speed yourself up, especially when you're doing so many squares, just like so. So at this particular point you need to have your 4 squares ready in order to do one square completely. So this is what they'll all look like at this particular point. This ruffling edge, as I've mentioned before, is a result of joining them, just like you see. So what we have here is that when we look at the pattern, getting started with this is a bit daunting because there's a lot of written instructions here as we move our way across doing this. But I have to say, once you understand the concept of putting these together, all of this language here and all of what you see here is actually very, very, very simple. So it's just a matter of getting by the first one. I found with myself, once I kind of understood the concept after 2 squares, doing the rest was really, really quick. So it's just a matter of reading through our directions for the very first time. So what we have here is that we need to arrange these in a particular order. If you notice that, if you look at the particular picture, is that the red center is opposite to the green center. So I would put them down, and the white is opposite to the white. So it would be like a formation, just like you see, just like that. So whatever, if you want to switch it like that, it's really up to you. And again, once you have this together, you can actually rotate it around on your particular Afghan as well. So in this next part, we're going to get started on joining them together. We're going to start off with the very first one. We have to prepare one completely, and then the rest just boom, and then the next one boom, and then the final one is booming to 2 sides. Booming is attaching to 2 sides. So let's start off with square number 1 in order to fully attach. When we're looking at the instructions, what we have here is that this first square is the continuation of these small squares. So you can see that you fastened off after round number 3 and we stopped. and then you can just see how you have here. So we have to make blocks now of 12. So all 48 come together in groups of 4, which creates a block, and that's why this says make 12. So the first square is the first one of the 4 coming together, second is the second, third, and then the fourth is on the next page. So essentially we just have to follow along. When we get to the second and the third, it says work as the first square blah 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 to a certain point. So it's actually really quite simple as we come around doing this together. So let's start off. We're gonna do round number 4, starting off with the first square. So to start off with, we want to grab one. It doesn't matter which one you begin with, to be quite honest with you, and it says to join A, which is the color. In this case A is green, and this will be the final. So this color here goes against the big larger block when we're going to do it, so it's something that you want to keep in mind. It says join in the center of a 3 double crochet group, and then it says and to the left of any corner of the chain 2 space. So essentially right where we have here, it says to the left, so it's gonna go to this way. If you're right hand or if you're left handed, it'll be in the opposite direction. But essentially what we have here is that you want to be in the center right here. Okay, so not a corner but in the center, and we want to fasten that on. So just coming on, and we want to chain 1, and then single crochet into the same spot. Okay, just like before on the bigger one in tutorial number 1 of this, is that you can just leave this across the top of the line and it will get trapped underneath. So essentially what we have to do is we have to play in these gapping spaces just like you see here, and this is a really quite a simple concept. So essentially now we have to chain 1, and it says to what we have single crochet double or chain 2, single crochet in the next chain 1 space twice. Okay, so here's what we have to do, is that we have to come to this gapping space and we have to single crochet and chain 2 and single crochet into the same spot, and then after you've done that, chain 1. So this is the same for all 4 sides for this particular one. So we come back down to the to the gap, so single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, and now we chain 1 again. So we're chaining 1 every time we finish a section, just like so. We come into the center of the final here, so we got 1 2 3, just come into the thing right there for a single crochet, and then what we have to do is chain 1. And so the sides here are really interesting, so watch this. There's a lot going in this corner here. So we're gonna single crochet, we're gonna chain 2, we're gonna come back down into there for a single crochet. We're now gonna chain 4, 1 2 3 and 4, coming back down into that corner for another single crochet. We want to chain 2 and then single crochet into the same corner. So you can see that we have a lot going on in this corner. So let's move along to the next side. So we're gonna chain 1, we're gonna come to the middle of the first section right here for a single crochet, chain 1. We're now gonna come into the gap, so the gaps are always gonna be single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. So, and then now chain 1, the next gap, single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, chain, and now we chain 1 again. We come into the center of the 3 for a single crochet, chain 1, and now we come into the corner again. So here we go. So it's single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, chain 4, single crochet again, chain 2, and single crochet all into the corner. So it really makes a really nice corner, like you can see. And now chain 1 and do all of the sides just like so. So this is square number 1. You can do like 12 sets of these all at the same time if you really wanted to, but it's when we start doing to the second, third, and fourth for joining is when it slightly changes. So I'd recommend maybe do 12 of these all at the same time, and so that they're all ready so that you can move along in assembly line format just like so. So let's meet back up. I'm just going to continue the same format all the way around. Meet back up, we're going to fasten off, and then we're going to go on to square number 2. So I'm coming all the way back around, and I'm finalizing off the last corner just like so, and now we just chain one and then join it to the single crochet just like this. So for every one of the 12 boxes that you need to make, you need to have the first square done completely, and everything else from this point attaches to this square in order to make the group of 4 come together into one. And so I'm just going to weave in my edges like I have been. And so let's move on to square number 2, and in square number 2 we're going to do it starting off the very same way, and I'm going to just leave it to you then to finish it off once we get to a certain point as well. At this point we're going to attach the next square together. Remember that if you're doing something that's opposite to each other just like so, that cannot be your next square, so that your next square has to be the one that's directly beside it, not on a diagonal just like this. And so I'm going to grab my green, and we're going to start off the same way just like we did before. So we just come into the very first corner, so you can see that the corner edge, right? So we come into the middle one of the group of 3. And this is just exactly like how you just did the last square. So we just chain 1 and single crochet into the same spot. And now we chain 1 and you have your gapping space. So all of these squares start off the same way. So why is there so much writing when you're going to do all of this? Essentially what's happening is that where they're joining causes the directions to change just slightly. So what we want to do on this one is that we want to do all 3 sides before we do it, because the final side is going to be the joining side. So we have our 1 single crochet, 2 chain, 1 single crochet, then chain, and now 1 single crochet, 2 chain, 1 single crochet. So that's how you do your gapping spaces. Chain 1, and then on this one we come to the middle, first single crochet, chain 1, and the corners are identical to what you've already done. So just single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, chain 4, single crochet back in, chain 2, and single crochet back into the corner. So there's a lot going on in the corner. And now chain 1, going to the middle of the 3, chain 1, okay, come into the next gap space, and single crochet, chain 2. You can remember this. I'm actually remembering this, so this is pretty good. So chain 1, next gap space, chain 2, same space, chain 1. Okay, it's the middle of the group of 3. I have my straggler there, so I'm trapping it into position as they're going around, and then chain 1, and now come into the corner again. So single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, chain 4, single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. So I'm going to leave it to you. Stop when you get to this point over here, because this final is the one that's going to attach it to the next square right beside it. So we're coming around now, and we're on our final edge, and this is what I want to point out to you here. So when we go to attach these, we're going to attach it in the square, or sorry, right in the corner. This is the chain 2 that we had, and that came back in. And then what we want to do is that we want to fasten it into the middle here, and then these are the 2 chains, so they're going to be attached here and here, again to the center here, and then to the first chaining 2, and then the final chaining of 4. So those are the points. So it's the corner, the first chain 2, the middle section here, chain 2, middle section, chain 2, chain 4. So I'm going to show you the way that it's asking you to do it, and then I'm going to show you the way that I've been doing it. So we're going to come up to the final corner, so chain 1, and we want to start off the corner as the same. Okay, so single crochet, chaining 2, come backing in, and so finally what we want to do at this particular point is that we want to chain 2, and we want to drop according to the directions of this loop. So we just want to go like this, and we want to go in. So what you have to pay attention to, what is the right side and the wrong side. You know, this is the wrong side that you see. I just turned it over. You can see it looks different. So you want to make sure that they're attaching to the same size front. So I want to go into the gapping space of the chaining 4, just like you see here, and I want to pull that loop through. Just like that. Okay. and now I want to chain 2. So I'm kind of finishing off the chaining 4, so I just pulled it through. I want to chain 2 and then coming back down for a single crochet, and so I chain 1 and then I drop the loop again. So I want to drop the loop again, so just pull it off, and I want to go into the chain 2 space on the other side and grab that loop again. Okay, and then chain 1 and then come back down into the center point, just like coming back down in, so to the corner. Okay, so I chain 1 and I single crochet first, and it says I want to get to the center of the other side, so I'm going to drop that loop again and go to the center of the other side. You want to go right into the stitch on the other side and grab that loop and pull it through, and then chain 1 and then come back down into the gapping space right here, and that would be how you would drop it and attach it. So here's what I've been doing. So this is kind of my own thing, and here we go. So I would chain 1 and I wouldn't drop that loop. I would just go into the chain 2 space and behind, like so, grab it through and through like a slip stitch and come back down in for the final, like that. So chain 1, so we're going across like we normally would. We want to single crochet, chain 1, so normally we would have chained 2, but I would come to the other side and pull it through like that. Okay, chain 1 and back down in. Okay, so we're going to chain 1, we're going to move to the center point here. Okay, and then I would go into the center point on the other side, pull it through and chain 1, and now I'm coming into the corner. So chain 1, okay, going into the 2, chain 2 on the other side, chain 1, come back down in, and now this is the chaining of 4 normally, so 1 and 2, coming around, grabbing the chain 4 space on the other side, 1 and 2, coming back down into the corner for a single crochet, and there's nothing more left to do on this particular side. So what I would do at this particular point is chain 2 to finish it off, coming back down in, and then chaining 1 and join it with the slip stitch, or sorry, the single crochet that you started off with. So you can see there that that's how I would join it together, and you can see that there's a slight difference in the way I do it. Is that when you do it the way that they suggest, is that you end up with a really tight line just like so, but in my case the way that I do it, I end up with some gapping spaces that are right in the center of the join. So you have to determine, do you like that or do you like it to be solid, and if you like it to be solid, you do it the way that they suggest of dropping the loop, but then if you want to speed up, you can have it so that you can have the gapping spaces. So either way, you're the designer, you can do what makes sense for you. And I'm ready for the next square, and you have to make sure that whatever square you're attaching it to makes sense. So for example, I want these to be opposite to each other, so this is the next one going in, and it doesn't really matter which way you're facing it at this point. So it could be this one. That's basically a choice that's up to you. So just grab one that you want to attach, and it doesn't really matter at this point which one you start with, as long as it's the one that you want permanently into position at that point. So I'm going to grab the green here, and that's going to be my next point, and let's grab our color and just do exactly what we've been doing all along. I'm not going to show you this particular square just to start off with, because it is the same of what you're already doing. I'll just get you started right here, and we're just joining it, single crochet, chaining 1, gap space, chain 2, and gap space. So essentially just go along how you've already know how to do, okay? And then what we want to do is that on the final side we want to bang it together. We want to attach it at that point. So I'll meet you at the attaching of this particular square in just a few seconds. So I'm now ready to put everything together. I got 3 sides done on this one. This is the 3rd square, and I'm going to put it together. I want to make sure it goes into the right spot, and just very quick and easy. So I got my first single crochet in, I want to chain 2 and then single crochet back in, and now I'm going to start doing it. So 1, 2, and I want to join it. So if you want to do the original method, you would drop your your stitch at this point and grab it from the other side, but I'm going to do it the way that I like to do it. So just I'm just going to put my hook through and slip stitch it through 1 and 2, coming back down. So we want to do all the attaching points for a single crochet 1, okay, and I want to get the 2 that's over here, so where the chaining 2, it's the same spot on the other side, pull it through and chain 1, and now I come back down to the center point, and then I come back down to the corner and just single crochet. So I chain 1 and going into the next one in the middle, first single crochet, chain 1, and then go to the other side where in the middle, put your hook through, pull it through and through, chain 1, come into the next one over here, first single crochet, and then we reach over and grab it on the other side in the middle as well. So pull it through and through, just like so. And now we come back down and we start single crocheting into the center, or into the gap space here. So single crochet, so 1, then chain 1, grab it on the other side in the gapping space. The camera angle is not always good. So we come right into the chaining 2 space on the other side. Just pull my yarn taut, pull it through and through, chain 1, coming back down into the same space. Okay, chain 1, move along to the next gap side, chain 1, going into the next gap side on the other side, and chain 2 gap, pull through, chain 1, and back down in to the front side. Chain 1, we're in the middle, okay, chain 1, and then grab it in the middle on the other side, just like so, pull it through and through, and now we're going to start our corner. So we're just going to single crochet, chain 1, grab the first chain 2 space on the other side. So we got to see where is the chaining 4, which is right this big space. This is the chain 2, that's where we're going to go in. Chain 1 and then back down in. Chain 2. This is the corner normally of the 4. So we just want to make sure that I'm going to grab it opposite to it. So I want to grab this one over here. I don't want to grab this one. So I want to grab it opposite so it's kind of reaching across from each other. So pulling through and then chain 2 and then coming back down in. Then chain 1, and now this time this one here is matching nothing. I was gonna say it's matching as a neighbor, but it's actually matching nothing. So I just want to chain 2, so chain 1 and 2, come back down, so pretend you're just going around as normal without joining, and then we simply chain 1 and then join it together. So once you understand this concept, it actually goes really quickly. Explaining it is a bit of a it's a bit of a daunting task, I have to admit to you. So I just want to weave in my edges just like you see, and so essentially now we have 3 pieces going together just like you have. So I guess the next thing we have to do is just finalize the final one to make this block complete. So the 4th square is now ready to go into position, and essentially you have 3 already attached, so boom, it's got to go together. And so the only difference of this one now is instead of attaching just on one side that we have been doing, you have 2 sides now to worry about in order to put them together. So we're going to start off the square just like we have been all along, so just reverse backward in this tutorial if you have to. I'm just going to get you started. Remember, it's the middle of the 3, and we are going to do 2 sides of this without really thinking much about it. So just single crochet again, chaining 1, going into your gap space, chain 2, and then gap space, chain 1, going into the next gapping space, chain 2, the same gap space for single crochet, chain 1, and now you're in the middle section of the 3, chain 1, and then the corner is of course the same as what you've already been doing. So single crochet, chain 2, single crochet in, chaining 4, back in, chaining 1 and 2, single crochet back in. So essentially just finish this one over here, and we're going to be finalizing the final two and putting it together as we go. So here we go, we've got two sides done, and now we're going to start putting it together. So the final corner, we just got to make sure, remember, that it's facing the right side, so everything is going together in the right way up. So I've started off with the single crochet, chaining 2, and then coming back in, and now we're going to start off with the chaining of 4 section, but we don't actually do chain 4. So chain 2, 1, 2, we come into the opposite one on the other side where it's chain 4, and pull it through and through. Let's pull everything tight, and now chain 2, 1 and 2, so we've kind of finalized it. Come back down on this side for a single crochet, and now chain 1. Okay, and now we want to get the chain 2 on the other side, so pull through and through. So if you're watching the directions, this is where you should be dropping your loops. So we're just going to single crochet just like there. We want to chain 1 because we're going to move to the center, so single crochet, and now come into the other side where you've done the single crochet, pull through and through just like that. Perfect. And now what we want to do is now come into the next one here, and we want a single crochet, chaining 1, going into the other side in the same spot. We want to grab it by that 2 chaining area, pulling it through and through, chain 1, single crochet back into the same spot, chain 1. Okay, we're now going to come into the gap, so single crochet, chain 1, go to the opposite side for the chain 2 area, pull it through and through, chain 1, back down into the gap, and now chain 1, coming into the middle for a single crochet. We come into the other side, we look for the middle on the other side as well, pull it through and through. Okay, and now we're ready for the final corner here, right in the center. So we want to come in for a single crochet, chain 1, and we want to go, this one is right directly opposite to each other. Okay, so we want to come into the one that's right directly behind it, pull it through and through, and then chain 1, coming back down in. Okay, chaining 1 and 2, and now this one here I want to grab to the opposite side, not to the neighbors, so then it really provides a nice great reach. So we're just want to look at it more carefully. You see, like, it's all bundled up right in the center. That's okay, because that's what holds this thing together. So I just got to look a little more carefully. So I go across, pull it through and through, and then chain 2, and coming back down in. Okay, and then chain 1, and now this time, instead of diagonal, I'm going to the neighbor to this side and grabbing the chain 2 space there, pulling it through and through, chain 1, and then back down into the corner. And now I chain 1, going into the middle section of the 3. Okay, then I go into the middle section of the 3 on the other side. Okay, around and pull through, and now I'm ready for the next gap. So single crochet, chain 1, going into the chain 2 space on the other side, chain 1, back down in. This is a workout, isn't it? So, okay, so single crochet, chain 1. So once you understand how where they're attaching, this stuff is pretty easy to work with, or this pattern is very easy to work with. Chaining 1, okay, single crochet in, going to the one that's in the middle on the other side, and now I'm ready for the final corner. So single crochet, chain 1, going into the chain 2 on the other side, chain 1, back down in. Okay, so 1 and 2, this is going into the 4 on the other side, pulling it through and through, chain 2, back in. Okay, and there's nothing left for it to join on this side, so we just finish the side as you normally would. So chaining 1 and 2, back into the corner as if there was nothing to attach it to, and then chain 1 and slip stitch it. Okay, and now we fasten off the green.